Tonight on CTV News, we have full coverage of the events that erupted on campus Friday night and a look into a leadership series that's tailored for empowering women.
Then later we find out how a local church is providing a unique space for the homeless as well as an analysis of Rams women's basketball. Lockers for people experiencing homelessness will come before the Fort Collins City Council tonight following the outcry from advocates. Reporter Kiera Coles will be there later in the show. Good evening, Rams. I'm Emma Yannicone.
And I'm Sydney Paul. But first, let's discuss the protests that erupted on campus Friday night. On Friday, a difference in perspective turned into a night that ended with police intervention. CTV reporter Kiera Coles has the story.
What started out as a peaceful protest against Turning Point USA founder and executive director Charlie Kirk.
I'm here with Democratic Socialists, and we're just here trying to show the other side, kind of save face in a way, because they're trying to use propaganda against us.
Soon turned into a riot. Kirk's presence on CSU's campus and his presentation titled Smashing Socialism created an upset in Fort Collins community amongst those who did not align with his values and beliefs.
It seemed like this was another example of the hate that's brewing in the country, and it's real important for us to take every opportunity we can to come out and support against hate.
However, upon the conclusion of Kirk's presentation, a group of people wielding riot shields and wearing skull-emblazoned face masks stormed into a crowd of remaining protesters while chanting Nazi slogans. Witnesses believe these people were members of the Traditional Worker Party, a neo-Nazi white nationalist group based here in the United States. However, police could not confirm this and no arrests have been made. CSU's President Tony Franks sent out an email following the event thanking law enforcement for quickly handling the situation and preventing injuries amongst protesters.
Immediately disperse, which means to break up this assembly. If you do not do so, you may be arrested or subject to other police action.
No one was harmed in the aftermath following Kirk's presentation. However, unrelated to the clash, a CSU police officer was injured in a one-vehicle ATV crash away from the initial protest site as protesters began to move off campus. He was transported to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
CSU graduate student Annalise Mowen is revolutionizing the world of solar cell energy. Her in-depth studies have proven that utilizing solar cell materials are more efficient when it comes to converting sunlight into energy than the standard method used today. Mowen has recently published a journal of her research alongside CSU chemistry professor James Nielsen. The article has been chosen as editor's choice in a chemistry of materials, a peer-reviewed scientific journal. To read Mowen's journal and check out her research, please visit thecollegian.com.
Faculty and staff members came together last week to discuss the importance of having women in leadership positions university-wide. I attended the Women's Leadership Series and have more for you now. The Women and Gender Collaborative put on the first event in their three-part Women's Leadership Series. A panel of 5 CSU employees came together to discuss their time at the HERS Institute and issues of diversity and inclusion on campus.
The university invests in developing women leaders, and they do that. One of the ways that they do that is through the HERS Institute, which is an executive leadership I guess I would call it camp.
Each year, CSU sends 2 women to undergo intensive leadership training at the HERS Institute. The panelists shared what they learned during their time there and how it affects their leadership styles every day. The leadership series is open to faculty members to attend and hone their own leadership skills.
It's geared towards faculty and staff, but the idea is to bring some pretty broad level knowledge and make it accessible to women across campus to help in their own leadership development to advance their skills development and careers.
The Women and Gender Collaborative hopes that the series will help bring about a culture shift in relation to leadership.
I also think it challenges the way that we've been socialized to think about leadership. So what does a leader look like? Who is a leader? Is it a white man over 6 feet tall named John? Right? Because statistically, there are more men named John who are CEOs than women. Is that the only way that we see leadership?
As a result of the series, the collaborative hopes that students and faculty alike will broaden their views on leadership moving forward.
Is leadership always in a three-piece suit? Is leadership always very commanding? Whose voice do we see as a leader? All of that, I think, matters. So that's why I think students should care.
The next section of the leadership series will take place in early March.
Fort Collins City Council is currently voting on whether or not to fund a local church program that will give people affected by homelessness public lockers to use.
We have reporter Kiera Coles live at City Hall now. Kiera, what's the atmosphere of City Hall currently?
Yes, Sydney. Now, this has actually been a big issue within the Fort Collins community of whether or not City Council wants to provide the funding to the Fort Collins Mennonite Fellowship Church regarding implementing their locker program. Tonight, the council is meeting to decide how to move forward.
Homelessness in Fort Collins affects approximately 18.3% of residents.
Right now, I happen to be in a shed. I'm able to sleep in a shed right now.
And Fort Collins Mennonite Fellowship Church wants to do their part to help alleviate the burden through the implementation of a locker program.
These would be lockers for people who are currently experiencing homelessness.
Steve Raymer, head pastor of the church, intends to build lockers that will be located at the back of the property in hopes of helping those experiencing homelessness keep their possessions safe.
I don't know how many times, like on Friday nights or Sunday mornings, people are asking me, oh, do you have any backpacks? Because mine was stolen.
And is asking the city for a $10,500 grant to fund the 20 locker pilot program. Those granted a locker would have access to it 24/7 for a 3-month period, creating constant turnover and opportunities for new people to access the lockers on a regular basis.
Potentially, you could say, in a year's time, 20 lockers every, 4 times a year, you have turnover. That's 100 people could potentially benefit.
Raymer insists the project is not only valuable, but critical.
All the things that you need to get a license, that you need to get a job, a lot of these things people are losing. Plus, they're losing those things that they're pictures of their children.
And funds will be provided to an employee to oversee the program, as well as decide who will receive a locker.
I was going to be writing up some interview questions, asking them if they need a locker, how it would help them.
However, the project has stirred a concern for safety within the Fort Collins community.
Concerns that were raised by the community were basically that, in part, the security that the church had suggested, a 24-hour security camera, for example, was not enough to really mitigate their concerns.
A concern Raymer is well aware of.
Those kind of behaviors, if they're reported to us or captured on the camera, that would mean immediate, termination of our agreement.
The 2x2 lockers will be put into place along this wall, allowing for those experiencing homelessness the opportunity to store their possessions. City Council is meeting tonight to discuss this proposal and decide whether or not to provide the fundings to keep the project moving forward.
Council will provide direction at this meeting about next steps in the event that they decided not to fund it, or if they decide to fund it.
But regardless of city funding or not, Raymer aims to keep the project moving forward, a move he attributes to a higher calling.
The reason I'm doing this is that it's pretty clear that Jesus calls us to serve the poor and to care for the homeless.
And one that will hopefully benefit the homeless population.
No, that would be great, because I would use that locker too, store some stuff in it just for, just in case. You never know when you have to leave the area that you're at. Anyway, because things go on in life, so.
Again, the final decision regarding the funding is being made tonight, and City Council will provide further instruction to the church in the coming weeks. Be sure to check thecollegian.com for more updates. From City Hall, Kiera Coles, CTV Channel 11.
Thank you, Kiera. For the entire month of February, the Black and African American Cultural Center at CSU will be hosting a series of events in honor of Black History Month. Some events include Black Is, Black Ain't, Black Women's Summit, and the Rams for Social Justice. This year will be the first that the back office is hosting a series of sessions called Being Black And, which will explore how identities in addition to being Black influence the way Black individuals show up. There will be a total of 3 sessions in the series, starting with Black and Undocumented, which will premiere on February 15th in room 322 of the Laurie Student Center.
A rocket launch earlier today has significant implications for the future of space travel. The SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket successfully lifted off from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 3:45 p.m. It is now the most powerful rocket flying currently and one step closer to landing humans on Mars. SpaceX is responsible for this first launch with the goal to make space travel more affordable with reusable rocket parts. Here's why today's launch was so monumental. The Falcon Heavy is capable of putting objects 3 times heavier into orbit than space shuttles could have, which is more than any other rocket flying today, and the cost of the launch was about 40% cheaper than its competitors. This successful launch proves to clients around the world the capabilities of the Heavy and will increase the amount of launches SpaceX can conduct in the future.
So Sydney, does this mean that we can have classes on Mars soon?
Yeah, this program could definitely make that possible in our lifetime.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Rams. Be safe and don't forget to tune in to Humans of CSU tomorrow night at 7 p.m.
And don't go anywhere just yet because Edgar Cedillo is up next to let you know if snow is in the forecast for this weekend.